the wave of fame was a bit too much for me to handle, you know, and I really crashed and burned.
How did that express itself?
Just you know, a lot of selfishness, you know, kind of just everything was coming at me. You know, I was getting everything thrown at me but the kitchen sink.
Become a little too cool for the world.
Became a little too cool for the world, I think. You know, I was getting a lot of attention. You know, I was getting all that validation that I sought, but I wasn't really working on, you know, the inner me.
Welcome to the Excellence Project. My name is Eric Worre, and today we have an artist, an actor, Jesse Metcalfe. He's here to be able to share his journey through television, movies, his whole process through the last 20 years of his life, and also the struggle, the challenges dealing with childhood trauma, dealing with addiction, dealing with different aspects of what chews up and spits out a lot of people in the entertainment space and how he's come out on the other side. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Jesse Metcalfe. So let's jump right into the conversation. Jesse Metcalfe, how are you?
I'm really good. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. I'm glad you could come to Vegas. We could sit down and have this conversation. Super fun. I was sharing the fact that you were coming to this with some of my female coworkers and female friends, and they're like, "Oh, that guy! I know that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy." So, in learning about your work and in checking out what you've done as far as a career, I've always been, and I think the world is a little bit fascinated with the entertainment business generally, but movies and television and acting, and it seems so glamorous and interesting and ego fulfilling and, I don't know, romantic even, this whole idea. But I want to talk about how you got there, but when was your first acting thing?
Okay, well, my first ever acting job, I booked after my junior year of college at New York University. I was studying film and television, not to be an actor, but to be a director. And I went to an open casting call for a now defunct soap opera called Passions. It was a really kooky, niche daytime television show that had this supernatural storyline to it. And you know, I ended up booking that job with no acting experience, dropping out of college, and the rest is history.
Really?
Really, yeah. I mean, you know, 25 years later, I'm still acting and living in Los Angeles. So, you know, I literally fell into the industry, as they say.
Well, understanding film and television and doing your study around that topic, what caused you to be interested in it? What led you to it in the first place?
I spent a lot of time alone as a kid. You know, both my parents were working, and I just really became obsessed with TV and movies. My father took me to a lot of iconic late 80s, mid to late 80s films when I was really young that were probably weren't age appropriate. And I got the bug, you know. I would lose myself in television and film. You know, the first movie that really had a significant impact on me was probably The Breakfast Club.
Sure.
I was obsessed with that movie, and that's probably the first time I started thinking critically about storytelling and characters and acting and kind of what went into making television and movies.
So in Breakfast Club, which character did you most relate to?
I identified with John Bender, Judd Nelson's character.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't seem like a John Bender.
Well, you know, I'm a reformed bad boy. I mean, what can I say, you know?
So where did you grow up? Talk to me about the bad boy piece.
Okay. Well, I mean, I grew up in Connecticut.
Okay.
You know, I was not particularly gifted as a child. I don't think, I played sports, but didn't really excel in sports. I more excelled in the arts. I could draw and I could paint, and I sang in the choir, and but I was a small kid. I was bullied growing up. I wasn't particularly popular, not particularly popular in grade school, middle school, or high school. And
That sounds crazy.
I think, yeah, I've since played a lot of characters in my career, specifically, in the movie John Tucker Must Die, who was like the star athlete and the most popular guy in school. And I actually sort of reveled in playing that character, because I got to live that out a little bit, through making that movie. But, people would always ask me in interviews what you were like in high school. And I would say, I wasn't particularly popular. I didn't have a lot of self-esteem. I didn't have a lot of self-worth. I think that came from various different things throughout my childhood, but mostly not really having a nuclear family. My mom was married and divorced several times. My father was sort of in and out of my life, some problems with the law, problems with substance abuse. And I think that just kind of made me feel a little unworthy, a little less than, and as we talked about prior to, kind of starting the podcast here, I think a lot of those traumas, from our past can propel us. But I think that there's a point of diminishing returns. If we don't address those traumas, even though they've sparked a drive and a motivation within us, if we don't address those traumas at some point, they'll then start to destroy us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I've struggled with self-worth my whole life. I'm still a work in progress. I've gotten much better. My particular sabotage of choice was inconsistency. Things would start moving for me, and I would get flaky around my business. I for no apparent reason, sabotage growth, success. I figured out a way to make money, but I never had much because my self-worth didn't line up with the realities of what was going on around me. So if I got any money, I just felt the need to get it away from me as quickly as possible by buying everybody dinner and, taking care of everybody else and rescuing everybody else all the time, instead of being okay with the fact that I'd earned it, that I worked hard and all that stuff. So I let a lot of people down during those inconsistent times and in the sabotage times. And I think, I don't know if you agree with this, but do you think I had a friend tell me, because I told my friend I was an outsider as growing up, everywhere I was, every school I was in, every situation I was in, I was on the outside looking in. Everybody else seemed to have it put together, but I was on the outside. And my friend said, everybody feels like they were the outsider, even if they were the popular one. They feel like they're the outsider, that nobody really understands them, that they're the weird one. And I've come to realize that might be true, that all of us kind of growing up have something that we think makes us different or special, but pushes us, has us feel separate from normal people. So what was it, do you think, what was it, the instability in the house, or what caused you to feel a lower sense of self-worth generally?
I think it was the lack of consistency that you touched on. And by the way, I aligned with a lot of your personal experience and what you just shared. Yeah, I think it was the inconsistency. I think it was a bit of a lack of validation, at least on, from my father. And I think it was, just like you said, really feeling like I was on the outside, not really feeling accepted, well-liked. Yeah, I think I just,
How did that exhibit itself in self-worth? Were you a people-pleasing type of a person? Were you
No, I mean,
a loner?
I
You
had
pull
many,
away?
I exhibited various different characteristics, you know, based on that throughout my life. As I think people do. People try to, at least I did, try to hide those feelings, you know, and I would hide those feelings with grandiosity, with bravado. That was probably more, you know, in my late teens, early 20s. And when I was younger, I was a sensitive kid. I remember a lot of times coming home from school and just crying in my mother's arms, honestly. You know, I mean, I really didn't feel accepted and liked growing up as a child. I felt like I was on the outside. I felt like I was different. I felt like, you know, I got teased for looking like a girl when I was a kid. I had like longer hair. I was a pretty child. I don't know what to tell you. You know, I was
Right.
like, I was a child model, you know, and you know, I really got teased a lot about my appearance. Ultimately, my appearance ended up helping me make it in the entertainment industry and make millions of dollars, you know, and have a lot of success. But when I was younger, my eyelashes were too long. My hair was too long. I was too small. I was too short. I wasn't good enough at sports. I sounded like a girl. I looked like a girl. I dealt with a lot of this stuff when I was in grade school.
I always wonder, I mean, now you know that stuff was going to ultimately be working for you, but at the time you just wanted to fit in and not stand out, not be remarkable in any way. Going back to that younger version of yourself, would you say anything different to that younger version to help them get through it a little bit more healthily?
Well, I don't know if there's anything that you can just say. I honestly think that a young boy needs a male figure in his life, validating him daily, telling him he did a good job, you know, coaching the little league team, saying, great job, son, you know, you can do this.
Right.
I had that in spades from my mother, but it was from a woman.
Your father.
I needed that male. I needed it from a male. Yeah.
So the screenwriter in me thinks about, which I'm not a screenwriter, but the imagination part of me thinks about, if I could go back and physically be a coach to the younger version of me, like day in and day out.
Yeah.
I would, one, tell the younger version, don't take shit from anybody.
No.
Just don't take it. And just put your chin up, chest out, shoulders back, and walk through it like you own the place.
Right.
But also, it's going to be okay, kid. It's going to be good. It's going to be fine.
It'll pass.
Yeah, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's this little war zone. We forget the war zone that was middle school.
Oh my gosh, I know.
The war zone that was early high school.
It was devastating.
Oh my gosh. What the groups you wanted to be in, you were never in. And the way you wanted to be accepted, you were never accepted. And being somebody who looks good, the people who don't look as good will figure out a way to make you feel less than, make you feel insecure, make you struggle with self-worth, all of that. I've also seen that those traits, that insecurity, leads some people, especially in the arts, to become great. Like a lot of models are insecure, but they're great. A lot of actors are insecure, but they're great. Even directors, painters, writers, sculptors, insecure on one side. They're not solid in themselves. They're always trying to prove something to themselves. So when you get this first taste, you're a junior in college and you go and all of a sudden you get a role.
Yeah.
And like, had you practiced acting by that point? Have you taken acting classes?
I had taken 2 acting classes. I got some coaching on that audition, which I booked. And then immediately when I came to Los Angeles, I worked with a slew of different acting coaches.
Yeah.
Who were all amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did it do to your self-esteem when you got the first role?
Well, it gave me the validation that I had been seeking my entire life.
Really?
And then my career became my identity.
Right.
And I don't think that's particularly healthy, to have your entire idea of who you are and all of your self-worth wrapped up in if you book this job,
your
if
job.
you book that job,
Right.
how famous you are, how important, you are. I think having innate self-worth is going to give you the longevity in life that we're all pursuing. I mean, you were talking about having that initial insecurity, having that initial piece of trauma that ignites the fire of desire within you to prove people wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it breaks some people, but some people it ignites that flame, and propels them.
Yep.
I think it did that for me. But I do believe that you reach a crossroads where that flame will burn you alive. I mean, it really will. Yeah.
The flame of
you can't
show them.
You can't. That can't be what drives you. You can't be driven by negativity. You can't be driven on trauma your entire life. I personally think that it'll start to have the adverse effect. At least it has with me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of those traumas that I really just put a Band-Aid on by getting the validation of, some fame and success in the entertainment industry, ultimately ended up rearing their ugly head again later in life.
Interesting. The idea of using what you can to get off the ground. Like for me, my early stage was so ambitious that I was just kind of willing to do whatever I had to do to get out of one state and into another state, out of one kind of realm of his existence into another one. And I was trying to prove a lot of people wrong. I was trying to prove a very few people right, so that they were right to believe in me. But to be able to get comfortable in my own skin ultimately, right, was a journey. So I want to talk about the craft, and then we'll get into how everything worked. So you book the gig, you start taking some acting lessons.
Yeah, I got myself into class, worked with a lot of exceptional acting coaches. Ivana Chubbuck is probably my biggest inspiration as far as my technique.
Can you talk about the technique at all? I mean, because
sure.
Here's what from the outside looking in, you can see a bad actor from a mile away.
Yeah.
Somebody who's not hitting their mark and saying their line the way they need to say it. They're sticking out like a sore thumb. Mm-hmm. Like when they put in a professional athlete, like Brett Favre, and when There's Something About Mary is so awkward and wooden and uncomfortable that everybody else looks like they're totally in the right place and he doesn't.
Right.
So you see the bad ones. Then you see the spectacular ones who are just, Daniel Day-Lewis, Meryl Streep, you can't even fathom what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then you see the workers.
Yeah.
The guys the people who are working at various forms.
Well, I'm a worker.
Yeah.
I by no means think that I'm a spectacular actor, but I think acting is something that you never perfect.
Sure.
It's definitely a journey. It's
talk to me about learning it. What are some of the things that were interesting to you in figuring out how to be a good actor? What were some of the basic things that you had to figure out early in the game?
Well, everything that you say has to mean something to you. And the moments in between the words and the lines are just as important as the words and the lines themselves. A lot of actors have varying approaches to how they break down a script. I've heard that Anthony Hopkins just reads the script like 30 times. Sounds pretty laborious, but he really gets the story inside of him. He owns the words. He starts to, the words on the page come to life to him, and he starts to believe them. Me personally, I use a lot of substitution. I'll take an experience or a situation in my present life or in my past, and I'll apply it to the scene because I feel like my character in that scene has the same desire or objective that I had in that given situation in my life. Getting into the minutia of various different acting techniques might be boring to some,
No,
to some
I
of your
find it
listeners or
fascinating.
to you.
No, I find it fascinating because I'm interested in the craft.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in the technique. And let me tell you why. Okay. I believe in entrepreneurship, and specifically in in the field that I work in, I used a lot of acting.
I would imagine.
Now,
We all do.
Yeah. And here's how I did it is I was wildly insecure. I was scared to death. I was afraid of being embarrassed. And I learned that if I mirrored very successful people in my field,
Mm-hmm.
and I said what they said and acted how they acted and had the posture and the energy that they had, that it worked. And it turned into money.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It turned into building a team. It turned into attracting good people. It turned into opportunities. And I was like, this is super interesting. I can portray another person that's more successful than me to this person that I want to do business with. And as long as I'm good in that acting, then I got the same results that the successful person got.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I wasn't wildly successful, I could, if I put myself in that role, then I could be successful like that. I did it with speaking,
Mm-hmm.
getting in front of people and speaking. I basically copied a few people that I wildly admired,
Right.
and their words.
So you were kind of playing a character.
I was playing a character for
Yeah.
sure. And then slowly I adapted.
That can help with the nerves,
Yeah.
Because it's not really you.
Right.
You're going into character before you get out there.
And I adapted.
Yeah.
Slowly I found my own voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In that. And anybody who listens to me and knows the people who are influenced me, they'll hear little pieces here and there through it, even though it's probably 80% me now and 20% my influences. But at the beginning, it was 98% influences and 2% me. I did not want people to see me, in the little bit of acting, actual stage acting that I did early in my life. Some people wanted me to be myself in a particular role, which was the worst advice ever. I did not want anybody to even see myself. I was embarrassed about myself. So I would rather give me a template of what I need to be, and I'll be that. I'm much more comfortable doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it in terms of posture, in terms of leadership, in terms of speaking, in terms of solving a problem, in terms of promoting an event. I would literally find somebody in my head. I played all these tricks. One trick was like, the Greek gods are up in the clouds watching me, and they're judging me about how effective I was going to be for the day.
Oh, wow.
So I would go perform.
That's quite the imaginative
Yes.
world you created for yourself. There,
I
Eric.
totally did. I swear to God. I had to find hacks, because for me, if somebody wasn't watching,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't performing.
Okay.
If somebody was watching, I would just do amazing things. But if they stopped watching, bad habits, vices would kick in, laziness, procrastination, everything else would kick in. So I just needed outside validation so much that I learned to play all these different tricks.
Well, I can relate to that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why I'm asking about this, because some people that are entrepreneurs, they need to come up with a way to act stronger until they become stronger, to act like a better leader until they are a better leader, to act. So any tips that you would give them on how they could do that? If let's say they had a role model that they could emulate, and they didn't have the skills that role model had, but they could act like they did.
So what are we looking at here? We're looking to gain self-confidence.
Yeah. Acting confident if they're not.
Acting confident if they're not.
Like you acted in John Tucker Must Die, like the most popular guy in the world.
Mm-hmm.
when your actual experience in life is you weren't.
Yeah.
So how did you find that character when it was a natural part of your DNA at the
Okay.
moment?
Well, I think one major component of giving a great performance is that you have to enjoy being the character. And because I wasn't that, I got to enjoy playing that character and also enjoy mocking that character and mocking that archetype. So I think I took some of the fuel from my childhood, some of that trauma, some of that bullying.
Were there a few names from the school days that you
of course
were
and
playing that role?
I used this character to I used the character to like exercise those demons in a way, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing that character.
Therapeutic?
It was therapeutic. Exactly. That's the word I'm looking for. It was therapeutic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, figuring out somebody in your head, whether it's a personal experience or let's say you're playing some historical character, you go figure out as much as you can about that person and then try and implant that into your way of being. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a whole other thing. If you're playing a real person, there's a lot of research that needs to go into that.
Right.
The person's mannerisms, the person's
Have you ever done that?
Pattern of speech, their accent. I recently played a real person in a movie that I did with Dennis Quaid and Heather Graham called On a Wing and a Prayer, where I did some research on that character. I wouldn't say it was the deepest dive into the character, because we didn't really look a whole heck of a lot alike. Right. But he was very happy with my portrayal of him. I mean, there's a lot of depth to acting, but I think getting back to your question about, working on a person's self-esteem or self-confidence or bringing value into your life if you don't feel valuable, that's something that I feel almost more inclined, to speak on, because that's really the spiritual journey that I think I've been on, right. Even though I've had a lot of success in the past in the entertainment industry. Yeah. I've also had a lot of struggles, and I think reconnecting to myself, reconnecting to God, incorporating things into my life like prayer and meditation on a daily basis, has really helped me to find myself again, in an industry where it's easy to lose yourself, right? In an industry where it's very easy to lose your concept of what is valuable in life. It's not all about cash and prizes. I mean, I know that you talk a lot about entrepreneurship. You talk a lot about growing businesses and making money. And I think that's definitely a component of life, but you're, like we started this conversation, you're never going to have those things or be able to hold on to those things if you don't have the right mindset. Right. Like when you first started making money, you were allergic to money. You were giving it away. You were like, get this money away from me, because you didn't feel worthy of it. So we need to, work on our inner reality before we can access, the reality of our dreams.
Fair enough. So, all right. Let's do it this way then. We'll go through career path and the ups and the downs.
Okay.
So you start with this soap.
Yeah.
And pretty soon after, you have a big breakthrough.
Well, I did 5 years on daytime television.
Yep.
And I felt as though I was meant for something bigger.
Yep.
So I rolled the dice and I left that show and I did my first pilot season. And towards the end of that pilot season, after getting a couple callbacks, but not booking anything, I got the opportunity to test for now a pretty iconic series called Desperate Housewives. And I ended up booking that role as John Rowland, the often shirtless teenage gardener.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the show that really put me on the map.
So that starts, and an iconic show, Red Hot.
Yeah.
What was it like to be in a red hot show with red hot people. You're one of them on that incredible ride. And were there any emotional challenges in that journey?
It was a huge time in my life, a defining moment in my career, but it wasn't something that I was prepared for.
You hear about this all the time, as far as actors not being ready for the white hot spotlight.
Yeah.
When something becomes part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah,
I
I had a pretty meteoric rise.
Sure.
And that the wave of fame was a bit too much for me to handle, and I really crashed and burned.
How did that express itself?
Just a lot of selfishness, kind of just everything was coming at me. I was getting everything thrown at me but the kitchen sink.
Become a little too cool for the world.
Became a little too cool for the world, I think. I was getting a lot of attention. I was getting all that validation that I sought, but I wasn't really working on, the inner me. That was just a pacifier, and
sure.
It kept me for a long time in a place where, instead of growing, I sort of just kind of stayed the same for probably a decade.
Wow.
And, through my 20s and into my early 30s, a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs.
Do you think that's part of the whole environment, the part of the culture, or do you think it's a choice?
It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. I mean, I personally think I had a genetic predisposition to addiction, but I think that addiction was also something that allowed me to not have to face how I really felt about myself on the inside.
Yeah. I think we're all on that journey, trying to figure out a way to be kind to ourselves.
Absolutely.
In the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the middle of Desperate Housewives, you do the big movie, John Tucker movie.
Well, after the first season of Desperate Housewives, I was actually fired. I was demoted. I was demoted from a series regular, and I was part of arguably the most popular storyline on that show, to a reoccurring character.
Any reason why?
I think it was, it wasn't Desperate House Gardeners. It was Desperate Housewives. At least that's how it was put to me. By the show's creator at that time. That
had to be kind of hard to take, hard to hear.
I thought I handled it pretty well at the time because I was high on that first taste of fame.
Sure.
And I also knew that I was going to be doing John Tucker Must Die.
So you're like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, my first studio movie. So I kind of felt like it was a stepping stone. But in retrospect, yeah, it was a little bit of a blow, definitely.
So you go through your 20s and you're medicating through fame, substance, alcohol, whatever, all those things. At what point do you realize there's an issue? I've got a challenge here. When do you acknowledge that something needs to change for you to be kinder to yourself?
I acknowledged that probably around like 28.
Okay.
Where I did a 30-day stint in rehab. I was going on multiple day benders. It was really catching up with me. It was ruining my image. It was ruining my career. It was ruining my personal relationships. It was ruining my self-esteem, my sense of self-worth. I honestly feel like when people are in the throes of addiction, they don't grow.
Right. They just stop.
So in a lot of ways, I really felt like a 13, 14-year-old boy for the majority of my life.
Wow.
At least through my early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what caused you to say, okay, you know what, this is a problem, I'm going to go get treatment?
Well,
was there a moment?
I've also battled depression in my life. Was on antidepressants for probably 15 years.
Wow. Starting how early?
I got on antidepressants probably around the time that I did my first stint in rehab. Yeah, probably around 28.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And did they help?
At the time they did. At
Okay.
the time they did, because I was pretty depressed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, battled substance abuse, battled mental illness, depression, a little bit of anxiety. And I just, got sick and tired of being sick and tired, basically. The drugs and alcohol, they weren't working anymore. What was once my medicine, my way of feeling good, turned into something that I knew was destroying me.
Do you realize that at 28 when you went into rehab, or was it later?
Oh no. I mean, this has been an ongoing process.
Yeah. So
I've done multiple stints in rehab.
talk to me about the journey, and because I think a lot of people can relate and benefit from it.
Yeah.
But talk about the journey from, okay, I'm going to go to treatment, and then coming out and falling back in the same patterns and doing it again and again. And and then ultimately feeling like you're gaining some traction, you're making some breakthroughs, you're figuring out some things in your life.
It's all part of the journey.
Yeah.
Everything
talk about it.
everything leads up to the present moment.
Okay.
Definitely a lot of struggles. Getting sober for me was a 20-year saga.
Wow.
Really, from when I, first started using, I do believe that those struggles made me who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that I have an empathy and a humanity about me that I bring to my work, that I bring to my personal relationships now. I have an appreciation for that depth. But it wasn't easy. Yeah, there was a lot of, I thought I had this, and then I'd fall back, and, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of feeling like I was a failure, and a lot of lies, a lot of hiding all of that from my reps, my managers, my agents, my publicists, hiding it from the public, while trying to maintain an image and maintain a career, so
Yeah.
it was definitely a struggle. And I think I've even taken it a step further now over the last couple of years, and I've really been on a spiritual journey, to gain even more enlightenment and understanding of how to manifest the career that I want, the relationships that I want, the future that I want, and I'm big into Joe Dispenza and
Sure.
Eckhart Tolle and the power of the present moment and the laws of attraction. And I know you speak about a lot of these things.
Sure.
And I believe in them wholeheartedly. I really do. And I think what's helped me level up as of late is really incorporating a daily practice of meditation.
Hey there, just a quick interruption, especially for network marketers. Whether you're just starting out or if you're ready to level up, GoPro Academy has just what you need to take your network marketing business to the next level. Get step-by-step training on how to get started or restarted the right way, and then get everything you need to earn 6 figures or more and become a network marketing pro. To learn more, just visit goproacademy.com. I've helped millions of people learn how to recruit tens of thousands of people to reach 6 figures, and I've personally helped more than 1,000 people achieve 7-figure incomes and above in network marketing. I can help you too. Head to goproacademy.com today, and I'll see you there. Talk to me about where you are today. And then
Sure.
I want to understand how you got to where you are. I'm talking spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yeah.
You're a young man.
Well, I just turned 45 last month.
Yeah.
So I'm not that young.
Well, you look younger, and I think you're doing just fine.
Well, I want to.
You know how much I'd pay to be 45? I'd give you everything, all of it.
Can we
All of
work
all
that
of it.
out? How do we work that out?
Somebody needs to write a script, and we'll switch, and it'll be done. No problem. Because I'm 59. So those 14 years,
They're big years.
bro,
Yeah.
give me those 14 years.
And they go by fast.
Oh my gosh. So at 45, where are you, like I said, with all the talk about the spiritual and emotional and physical side, mental side? We're talking about the career side separately, because your career is obviously moving forward and you're finding opportunities and you're creating and you're growing, which is all great. But where do you find yourself in this moment?
I think I'm in a pretty major transformative period in my life still. I don't have it all together. You know,
I don't think anybody has it
yeah.
all together.
Well, you know, I mean, I think people follow people on social media
That they think do.
and we share all of our successes and the best photos of us from the best angles in the best light, and you know, people think that, you know, you're constantly crushing it, you know, but I'm just as human as anybody out there, you know, and I have my struggles, but I think I'm in a great place right now because I have a wealth of experience, knowledge, and wisdom behind me. But I'm also discovering some things that I feel like are indispensable for success now, you know, and I have to go back to, you know, meditation and, you know, getting in contact with the quantum field, and
talk to me about all those stuff.
Just
talk
getting
to me
in
about
alignment, getting in alignment, you
What are
know,
those-
starting your day off the right way, you know, putting yourself in a position to succeed. You know, being grateful, being truly humble, not just saying you're humble, but, you know, having that sense of humility, you know, and really appreciating every moment and celebrating the small successes. That's where I'm at in my life, because I spent my entire, you know, late 20s and 30s driven on self-will, completely self-centered and selfish, and at the mercy of public opinion, you know, outside validation. And now I'm taking my strength from within. You know, I'm not dependent on the outer world to bring me joy and to give me what I'm looking for. You know, I'm attracting that from within.
Interesting. So as practical as you can give me, talk to me about how you get up in the morning.
Okay.
Talk
cool.
to me about,
I would love to do that.
what does meditation
feel
like? Because I understand prayer, but
Yeah.
meditation's still a mystery to me.
Okay.
So please.
I think the biggest mistake, and you know, this is pretty much common knowledge, but people are so addicted that they can't stop. The biggest mistake is waking up and getting on this. If this is the first thing you do in the morning, is look at your phone, check your emails, check your texts, go on Instagram, go on TikTok, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. The first thing that I do when I wake up in the morning is I get on my knees and I pray. That's the very first thing that I do. I cold plunge 3 times a week. That's the next thing that I do. Get out, I dry off, I make myself some coffee. I do drink a lot of coffee. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. Okay, and then I read. I do like an hour of reading.
What time do you get up in the morning?
Few different books. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
6 o'clock, and you pray, you cold plunge.
I do an hour of reading.
And
then I go to
it's various. Doesn't matter what it is.
Various different books. No, it matters what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I only read the best books. I don't.
Can you give me an idea?
I don't waste my time.
Any
on
recommendations?
anything. Oh my gosh, your book's incredible.
Yeah, come on. Which ones have had an impact? on
Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza is, I think, if you want to start a meditation practice, where you should start. I mean, I think that's the most concise explanation of how the brain works, how we can influence our genes, how we can cure ailments and disease we might have just through the power of positive thinking. So that's a book that I'm completely obsessed with. Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza.
Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. We'll put it in the show notes.
Sounds good.
Any others? Had a big impact on
The
you?
Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle.
Mhm.
You know, it's pretty big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you're going to read something, and I'm guessing in the self-development, spiritual
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what feeds your soul.
That's
the best at the
what feeds me right now.
beginning of the day.
That's what feeds me right now.
Okay.
And obviously, as people would know, from following me on social media, I'm a health and wellness, fitness fanatic. I'm a gym rat. I think that that's just been such a great anchor for me in my life. So that's a huge part of my day.
Got it.
Yeah.
So the rest of the spiritual journey, when it comes to, you have to forgive me on the terms.
No.
Because dealing with or managing sobriety, is that even an accurate term?
Managing sobriety, staying sober. Yeah.
Staying sober.
Mm-hmm.
What does that entail?
That takes some effort. There's without going into too much detail about Alcoholics Anonymous, because
is it just day by day?
I don't know if you know this or not, but Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't really, the program as a whole doesn't like to be pulled into the world of media, because there's a lot of things are misinterpreted,
sure,
miscommunicated.
I'm just looking for practical use.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also a program of anonymity,
sure.
But with that said, I can share, a few basic things, which is just like, there's the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's really about living a life of integrity. It's about living a life that you can be proud of. And I think that in and of itself is something that people can draw a lot of strength from, a lot of value from, a lot of self-esteem from. If you're doing esteemable acts and you're living a life of integrity, that's naturally going to give you a sense of self-esteem.
The esteemable acts, I heard that from Darren when he sat in your same chair, Darren Prince. And that stuck with me. In order to be able to have self-esteem, you need to be engaging and doing esteemable acts. It's not just a thought.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think there's a big push in our society and also on social media back towards authenticity, back towards humanity. I think we've just been flooded, inundated, for the last decade with all these pictures of people, going on fancy vacations and dining at the most expensive restaurants and posing in front of private jets and, going on shopping sprees and having all the nicest clothes. People are sick of that. They want to connect with a real human experience. And that's kind of what's motivated me to come see you and come do a couple podcasts, because I feel like podcasts are where people get inspiration, and I felt like I wanted to share my experience, my strength, my hope, my wisdom with people in hopes that I could inspire them and help them avoid some of the mistakes that I've made in my life.
So, and how would you do that? I mean, let's say somebody is struggling right now in some area. Their difficult home life, they've got addiction challenges, they can't get out of their head, they're stuck in depression or bipolar or ADHD.
I'd send them a link to this podcast.
Yeah, really. but what's the advice that you would give? What would you say if I'm one of those people and you're just sitting across the table? How can you help me?
Look, everybody's different. I think the biggest way that you could help someone who's struggling is to listen. Because it's not a one size fits all piece of advice. You have to know what somebody's been through, know what somebody's struggling with. So it's a difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
But I can share what I've done, to pull myself out of
what's helped
dark places.
What's helped you with depression, as an example? What's been a something that was useful in order to be able to help you get into a better place?
Step one is to stop self-medicating. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just, you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to be stuck in the loop. So you need a clear mind in order to tackle some of these pretty serious mental health issues that people have. I also definitely advise limiting or cutting off entirely social media. I think I'm on social media. I post a lot of content. I get a lot of branding opportunities. I get the opportunity to share some of the stuff that I'm sharing with you today, some of the things that I do in my life that I think will help people, some of the brands and food that I eat that I think people would like. I try to keep my social media very authentic. I'm not just going to post on anything. It's not what I'm about, but I know the damaging effects that, social media addiction and phone addictions have on people. It's not good.
Do you try and limit your screen time?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any kind of boundaries, or just kind of limit?
No, I definitely, I don't go over an hour a day. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I have to keep
screen time's the real thing.
Real thing. I have to keep it under an hour a day. If you're doing 15 hours a week on your phone, that's not good.
I mean, most people I know are
do much
probably
more.
6 hours a day of screen time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So you can rationalize anything. This is for my business.
Yeah.
And this is how I'm building my brand, and this is how I'm connecting with my audience and all that stuff. You can justify it all.
Oh,
I'm doing
sure.
research to find out what content is going to be really good that's going to help me go from one place to another. And getting your self-worth if you get a lot of likes or comments or follows or shares, and not so much if you don't. Well, gosh, I guess that, that didn't resonate.
Right.
So it's this self-critical loop you get stuck in.
For sure.
When you talk about self-medicating, when it comes to somebody being depressed, does that include prescription medication in your mind?
Well, look, I can't say whether or not that's a personal choice. I can't say whether or not someone should take prescription medication. I'm not a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
For me, I was still depressed. I was still depressed after 15 years on antidepressants. So I'm kind of like, why am I taking this?
Yeah.
I'm going to try something else. I'm going to try a different approach.
What was the different approach?
Everything that I'm talking about.
Just
everything that
eating
I'm
healthy, cold plunging, and
looking at everything that I put into my body. Obviously no substances whatsoever. Not a lot of sugar.
Right.
1 coffee a day. Big into the cold plunges. I know that's huge right now. It's a hot thing. It's a trend. But you know what? It's a trend because it works.
Yeah.
Not only does it have all these, anti-inflammatory benefits, but it really puts you in the present moment.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's the thing that prayer does. That's the thing that meditation does. That's the thing that jumping into ice cold water does. It puts you in the present moment.
What's the temperature of your cold plunge?
Do you know? It's like it's freezing.
40?
I have to break up the ice,
Really?
Yeah. It's like
there's ice on the top.
Yeah.
There's one thing I just learned recently, that there's this place in the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex.
Okay.
And if it grows if you do something that you don't want to do. And it shrinks if you only do what you love. Okay. And the more it grows, the better your life. It's a good thing if it's big. It's big in elite athletes. It's small in obese people. Mm-hmm. So, and I was so happy to hear this because I hate going in the cold plunge. I hate it. And so long as I hate it, that part of my brain is going to grow. And if I learn to love it, it's going to shrink.
Yeah.
So I have to find something else that I don't like to do. And those choices can include saying no to some sort of self-medication, can grow that piece. Because if you want it and you say no anyway, it grows. You know what I mean? So I found that interesting for me, empowering for me.
I'm big into contrary action. I think most growth comes from things that we're avoiding.
Interesting. So, all right, this is all fascinating and great. Do you consider yourself an artist?
Absolutely. To my core.
I love that. The thing I admire most in the world is an artist. And I don't even care what their canvas is. Doesn't matter. But if they approach it with excellence, if they approach it with love and care and precision and intention, I'm a fan.
That's why I've struggled, over the past 8 years or so within the entertainment industry, because the quality of the content, at least the quality of the content that I've been lucky enough to be a part of, it's not what it once was. I mean, and I think you're well aware of this. You know,
Mhm.
you talked about how people aren't going to the movies anymore, how the industry is changing, contracting. I mean, they try to shoot movies in 7 days now, feature length films. You think you can make a quality feature in 7 days?
The big star will come in for 48 hours,
Yeah.
sit, do all of their scenes and be gone.
Yeah, it's
They'll
impossible.
put them on the
It's
cover.
impossible. You know, so obviously we're balancing art and commerce, but it sure seems like commerce is winning these days.
So as an artist, the thing that I've seems to be the trend. If you're going to be an artist, you have to take control of your own projects. You have to create from scratch. You have to create projects that have you intended as the director or the star. You've got to go get your own funding. You've got to go figure out your own distribution, the whole thing from top to bottom. Have you explored like totally creating the vertical yourself?
I have. I mean, I'm in process with some things right now. I mean, I've produced some things in the past.
Yeah.
I'm definitely developing some things right now and exploring a lot of different avenues.
Yeah.
Like being on my first couple of podcasts for the first time. You know, I'm hoping that leads to some inspirational speaking engagements.
Sure.
I'm hoping that helps me build out the platform for the book I'm writing. So there's a lot of, you have to adapt in this industry. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm not coming on your show to complain about the state of the industry.
Not at all.
You know, or complain about opportunities that, you know, I've gotten or haven't gotten. But yeah, you definitely do have to take your destiny into your own hands, create your own projects, create your own vehicles. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but it's definitely, it's all about how bad you want it.
It's, I had an interview and we had at one of our events, we had Sylvester Stallone, who you worked with.
Yeah.
And as an artist, he was so interesting because he wrote 56 screenplays and 48 of them been turned into movies.
It's incredible.
48 out of 56. He's writing all the time.
It's amazing.
Just writing, as he's a painter and he's, you know, doing all these different artistic things. And he's also totally taking care of his body as best he can. I mean, he's beat it up quite a bit in a lot of the different movies, but I admire the fact that he's a writer as much as I admire the fact that he was an action star. But the thing that I found interesting is
he's prolific without a doubt. And, and his rise to fame. I mean, you know, writing Rocky and
not accepting that he wasn't going to be the star.
Exactly.
They offered him. They offered to pay him off.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
We'll give you huge money back in the day. You just go away. We'll take the script from here. He's like, no,
an absolute inspiration, honestly.
Yeah. So the different people that I know in the space are doing more and more. You're seeing that they are combo actor, artist, producer, director, executive producer, writer, brand ambassador. You see people in the space now with like Ryan Reynolds and his alcohol and his Mint Mobile and his soccer team or whatever. And
very diversified.
Dwayne Johnson, same thing. Mark Wahlberg, who lives here locally, has like 14 different verticals inside that space.
All three of those men are icons and incredibly inspirational to me.
Yeah, interesting. So tell me some of the artists inside of your world that you respect the most.
In what field? In the field of acting?
Let's say acting to start.
Wow. I think Bradley Cooper is a exceptional actor. Mm-hmm. Just watched his most recent film on Netflix. Maestro. I thought his performance was astounding. I really did.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I could list 1,000,001 great actors. You know, there's
and any that are particularly inspiring to you that you looked up to, wanted to maybe model some of the things that they did
that I wanted to emulate. Coming up. I mean, you know, I definitely followed Leonardo DiCaprio's career really closely. I mean, he's a powerhouse actor.
Make good choices.
he's made amazing choices, and he's never delivered a bad performance. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
How about directors?
I mean, I'm kind of from the old school. I grew up on gangster movies. So I liked, Francis Ford Coppola, Brian De Palma, Martin Scorsese. I mean,
The gritty guys.
Yeah. I love Quentin Tarantino. That
I get it.
but I wanted to be a filmmaker, before I wanted to be an actor. So
Guy Ritchie, does he fall into that or no? Different?
I really, really loved Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I love Snatch.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Pitt was unbelievable.
Legend. That was good.
Really?
Yeah.
Legend.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Fast forward 10 years. Where are you? Where's this journey going to take you?
Yeah.
You're a young man, all kinds of energy. You're in physical peak performance.
Oh,
you're entering your prime. You're exploring opportunities. You're going to be branching out, creating different things.
Okay.
What does it look like at 55?
Okay. At 55, I would like to be an established producer and tastemaker within the industry.
Well, tastemaker, explain that.
Well, there's a lot of producers, but there's not a lot of producers at the top of the heap that are one of the voices of, the generation, one of the voices of the industry. There's only really a select few at the top. Being a successful producer to me would be making great films, telling great stories, winning Oscars, winning Golden Globes, winning Emmys,
Behind the camera more than in front?
I think ultimately, yeah, behind the camera more than in front. I think I'm still in the game.
Yeah, sure.
Here, you know, I still have aspirations as an actor, but I think ultimately I would like to move behind the camera. Yeah.
Yeah. So a combo.
Yeah. I'd like to be a best-selling author. I have a book in the works.
What's the theme?
It's actually fiction.
Really?
Yeah. It's actually fiction. It's a thriller.
Wow.
Yeah.
So got to make it into a movie then.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Creating my own IP.
There you go.
There you go.
When's the book coming out?
That I don't know just yet.
Any guesses?
I would say I should have it done by the end of the year, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wrote one book. It sold a lot of copies, and
How many copies?
Like almost 5 million.
That's incredible.
And I haven't written another one in 10
Wow.
years because
Wow.
I'm lazy and procrastinating and scared and nervous, and I have every excuse in the world.
I can relate to
I have
that.
10 of those in my head, 10
Mhm.
books in my head. I actually have a person working full-time right now to help me organize it that I haven't had time to talk to over the past 10 days. So I'm trying to create accountability structure around myself to do what I'm meant to do.
Mhm.
I like being an author more than I like being a writer. I like being the person who wrote that thing
Mhm.
that's helped people
Right.
more than than
It's a lot of work. It's laborious. Definitely.
You can put me on stage for 3 straight days, 8 hours a day, and I won't need notes. I'll be ready to go. But if you make me committed to paper, it scares me.
Yeah.
Because it's so permanent.
Yeah.
So that's my own battle to work through and deal with. But listen, you as an artist, being your authentic self, I think is smart and great. Letting people know your vulnerabilities as well as your strengths, being willing to accept praise for something that you should be able to take credit for, and to be able to authentically move forward in the world. That's an accomplishment by itself. A lot of people get chewed up by the machine, the entertainment machine, and they're never quite the same. They're always a little bit off.
I agree with you. And I think that's kind of part of my goal. That's kind of part of my purpose, is to help people with that.
Help people from the entertainment space?
I do. Yeah, I do. I do think that I can help people, through my experience.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to share. As far as possibly being an inspirational speaker at some stage, the struggles that I've been through that I think were exacerbated by fame
Sure.
and, the meat grinder that is the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
And being able to have a long-term career
Yep.
and maintain your mental health. It's not easy to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's two stages in a successful life. One is the accumulation stage. There's a lot of dysfunction in that stage, and it's pretty selfish. And then the second stage, if you can get there, is the contribution stage. Mm-hmm. And that's a different kind of fuel. I mean, it's not a get back at anybody fuel. It's not a show them, prove them wrong fuel. It's a, let's see how many people I can help fuel. And the energy from that is so different. So I love seeing that you're in that space, that you're wanting to help, that you're moving things forward. So keep this thing moving. I want to see some blockbusters, whether you're in front of the camera or not.
Okay.
Make that happen. And I know everybody within our universe is going to be following you and cheering you on along the way.
That,
so
thank you.
Thanks for stopping by. And
you got it.
I'm glad that you're here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
So that's our conversation with Jesse Metcalfe. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do me a favor and like this podcast, share it with somebody that you think might get some value, and check out the show notes for everything about Jesse, how you can connect with him, how you can follow his journey, and how we can all cheer him on as he goes into the next chapter of his life with contribution. So a lesson to all of us. Let's all figure out a way to contribute more to other people's lives. Until next time, everybody have an amazing day. All right. See you soon.